upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We thought all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Rachel.
I'm Vicky.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Hello, everybody.
We're here.
Back again.
We're ready.
For another episode of Crime.
Yeah.
Crime and Punishment.
Crime. You guys ready to hear about crime?
Crime and punishment.
And murder.
Yeah.
And
I definitely
stuff.
feel like my mood recently has lifted because it is starting to get a little warmer outside.
Oh, completely.
Like that seasonal depression is like
gone. Who?
leaving my body.
We don't know her.
Oh my God, I just cannot wait until I can open my windows.
I
It's
know.
like still too cool to do that,
Yeah.
but like
we had like a really warm day the other day.
Yeah.
It was like up in like the 50s.
I almost had to
so nice.
open my windows because my apartment is on the corner that gets all the sun. So like those warm days,
Oh, yeah.
it's like 80 degrees
wow.
in my apartment. Yeah. Which I'm like kind of just dealing with because I'm like, hey, at least I don't have to turn the heat on.
Right.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I
that's
don't want to
true.
like, and it stays pretty warm until pretty late in the evening.
Your
so it
apartment's so
doesn't kick
cute.
on,
I
but
love how much like windows it has.
it has lots of windows.
So much sun. So
Get to
much
watch everybody
natural
coming in
light.
and out. 'cause
Well,
I'm
that's the best part.
I'm a nosy Nelly.
That's why we have this investigative podcast.
This is your first time listening. A special hello to you. We are going to head over to the newsroom.
Let's go there.
Unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
Our news this week comes from Jeju, which I believe is in Korea.
Oh,
I think it's like an island off in Korea.
okay.
But they're on, let me see, the 26th. So this would be, February 26th. Two Chinese men in their 40s stole 6 urns and fled from a crematorium.
What?
So they had actually been there. They talked about the day before, these guys had visited a few crematoriums to like scout out which would be the most convenient or the best. But these guys were there on a visa waiver.
They were casing the joint.
Yep. And they used prepared equipment to steal the urns during the early hours.
Why?
On that day, they had left for overseas, but they were essentially holding the urns for ransom, and they were demanding about $2 million from the crematoriums to get them back.
I see.
So they were trying to use the remains as leverage. But by the time it got reported to police and they started investigating, they found all 6 of the urns buried 1.3 kilometers away in a hillside. So they got the urns back. They gave them back to the families.
Hell yeah.
They do plan, if they can figure out who these guys are, to charge them
Right.
with special theft, possession of remains, and extortion against suspects. And it says they are requesting a red notice from Interpol, which I think is just like a worldwide warrant.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think so too. What a couple
yeah.
of dicks.
Also, weird thing to steal for leverage.
Very weird.
Very weird
How do
thing.
you know if those people have like families who are still alive or are wealthy?
Well, that's
How do you know?
and that's the thing. I mean, granted, they were asking for the money from the crematoriums, which I mean, they definitely make a fuck ton of money.
Oh, okay. I
But
see.
like, still,
That's weird.
It just is a weird thing to try to extort somebody.
It sounds like an 80s movie. Kind
Just
of.
stealing the remains for
Yeah.
extortion,
Yeah. Like, all of you be quiet back there.
like a buddy comedy.
yes.
I could see that. It's very.
But there
weird.
would also be ghosts.
And they must have known it would have been super successful. Otherwise, they
Yeah.
wouldn't have just like left them buried and then left the country. I
Yeah, well,
guess
they were like,
they were
well,
not committed for sure.
on to our next zany scheme.
Yeah, they were not committed to this one for sure.
No, they were not. They were not committed to the bit. That's funny.
We're gonna move on to Netflix and Kill, which this week we are talking about Jailbreak, Love on the Run.
Oh, so topical.
This is the story of a felon named Casey Cole White who escaped from the Lauderdale County Jail in Florence, Alabama, with an officer named Vicky White, no relation.
Oh.
They were not like, they just happened to have the same last name.
Uh-huh.
But she was this sort of long time, very close to retirement officer.
Okay.
Who it seemed to me she kind of gets this sort of had bad luck in love type vibe. Like she
Okay.
had been previously married, but then had gotten divorced. And she said he was like a drug addict. And so like she had been engaged, but then her fiance died in a car accident. And so like, you know what I mean?
maybe
Like
it's
she's
not
just
for you,
unlucky
girl.
in love.
Get a couple cats.
She sort of starts this secret relationship with this guy named Casey White, who was in prison he was serving a 75-year prison sentence for a 2015 home invasion, 2 carjackings, and multiple shootings.
Oh my God. She didn't have one like Taurus friend to be like, girl, he's not for you. He sounds like bad news.
Yeah. And then, of course, this prison escape, he got convicted of other charges, including attempted murder, first-degree robbery, some other things. So, anyway, so they sort of form this, like, secret relationship, which is wild to me because they had, like, one of the things that they show in the documentary is they have all of this security camera footage from the prison as well as the recorded phone calls that because every phone call out of a prison by an inmate is recorded to her, where they would talk to each other. There were times where they were like having phone sex or
cute.
you know, very clearly like more than this like
They're acting like they have no idea.
professional relationship.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very strange. And
Sounds dumb.
And people were like, you know, she always said when she retired, she was going to go out with a bang. So anyway, she tells these people.
I do know this case.
Yeah. She tells these people, hey, I have to take him out for this mental health evaluation.
Yes.
They leave. And they leave. I
Yeah.
mean, they just straight up take off. When they were sort of tracked down, they realized first they thought she was kidnapped, but then they talk about watching the video and how she does this thing where she turns her back to him, which is like a very big no-no when you're working in a correctional facility.
Yeah.
But it also shows you have a certain amount of trust with this person. Like she was not letting them lead, like she was leading this person, like all of these very small things that are kind of like red flags to be like, oh no, she was in on it. Like she knew what was happening. So, and they were also having sex in the prison, of course. When they were found, unfortunately, Vicky shot herself, committed suicide after they had like crashed their car into a ditch. They did take her to the hospital, but she died shortly thereafter. Obviously, Casey was arrested again. It's a really interesting documentary. It's kind of a wild ride because it is just the story of this
wild case.
Yeah.
I remember when that came out, like it was so weird because the first things were like, she's missing, like he took her, we have to find her. And then like that same day they were kind of like, well, she might be in on it. We don't know. And it was like, well, she's dead.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
And it did unfold pretty quickly. It was like within a number of days.
Yeah.
And he received the convictions for this stuff in 2019. So like it is pretty recently.
Yeah. How was the show?
It was pretty good. It definitely, I do, again, I always appreciate when they have like footage and stuff of this. And because
completely.
it largely took place in a jail, they have a lot of footage from the jail and the phone calls. So like that is pretty good. It was definitely really interesting. Not a story you hear every day.
Right.
Pretty short from what I remember. Again, I want to say it was like 2-3 episodes.
Oh, that's not so bad.
But definitely check it out. It's called Jailbreak Love on the Run, and it is on Netflix.
Wow.
This is that part of the show where we say content may not be appropriate for all listeners.
It may not.
We will, I am definitely talking about instances of murder. Some pretty dark things.
Yeah. Mine's okay.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us what we're talking about today, Rachel?
Okay. So my topic was related to your Netflix and Kill. It is jailbreaks.
What?
So
it's almost like I
funny.
planned that.
Ooh,
Who knew?
amazing.
I didn't. I'm just that good.
Just comes naturally.
Yeah.
Have you ever broken out of jail?
No, I've never been arrested. I can say confidently, I have never been arrested. I have
Just
never broken out of
kidding.
jail.
JKs.
I've broken out of the prison of my mind.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Broken out of society's prison.
Whoa.
Crazy.
You can't hold me back, the man.
Yeah, I have no rules. I'm free.
No rules, just right.
Just kidding. I love a good like jailbreak, like all the lights going and the dogs barking, the Shawshank of it all.
The Shawshank of it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think it's very exciting.
Breaking out through a shit pipe.
Yes.
Yes, love it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
We're there. We've set the scene. So I decided to cover the multiple jailbreaks of Alfred Houdini Hines.
Okay. Ooh, he had a nickname even.
Yes,
I like that. I like that.
Not on purpose tradition of picking people with crazy names
Yes.
for this podcast.
I like that. I like that.
So this guy had an Oliver Twist ass childhood in the absolute worst way.
Okay.
Like, I think this is such like, no offense to any of our like English listeners. I feel like with a lot of things in England, like this case, when I was reading about his childhood, it sounds like it's from like the 1700s, like
Yeah.
everything that happens. But he was born in 1917. So I want you to keep that in mind while I'm talking about this. Like
Okay.
this is like around like the 1920s.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know? So he was born in 1917 in England in a town called Newtington Butts. Like
Okay.
B-U-T-T-S.
Okay.
Pause for laughter. Okay, so like already you're destined for an unusual upbringing.
Okay.
Like, who names a place that?
The English.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They need to calm down.
Yeah.
They need to calm down. His father, a lifelong thief and criminal, was obviously not the best role model there.
Sure.
And to make things worse, his father would actually die after being caught for armed robbery, where the punishment was to be flogged with what was called a, you know, like a cat of nine tails.
Yeah.
It only has six.
Okay.
A cat of six.
Cat of six tails.
Yeah. A sentence that was so brutal it often claimed lives. Like those things, like the ends of those
Yeah.
were so sharp they would like rend flesh from
Yeah.
bone.
They literally attach and rip.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
claws of a cat, man.
And it was like, it wasn't, I'm trying to remember if it was like 10 lashings or 15 lashings. Like it didn't sound like a lot, but he died.
Right. And I mean, in those days, you just die from
Infection
or blood loss or
being out on a cold day,
Yeah, right.
You're just kinda
for
done.
existing,
eating a plant.
not having enough cocaine.
Oh, yeah, true. That's how I'm going to die.
The humors. Yes.
The vibes were
The
off.
vibes were off. I'm dead. I'm dying.
The vibes were off. I'm dead.
I'm dead.
And I think like almost certainly Alfred witnessed that death.
Okay.
So it's like, that's fucked up.
That's traumatizing.
Children shouldn't look at that.
Yeah.
After this horrific death, young Alfred, now an orphan, was remanded to a children's home. Now, unfortunately, this institution was not a delightful place to grow up. No,
Sure.
no Mary Poppins.
Sure.
No Miss Rachel.
Yeah.
Only gruel, I feel. And Alfred was often punished very severely.
Yeah.
Now, it's said that he got in trouble mostly for surprise theft.
Of course.
Stealing shit.
You learn what you know.
Yeah. And like this is the part where like as a mommy, when I was reading this, I was like, oh, because I'm thinking at this time, because he's like being punished for theft, and I'm like, okay, so he's a teenager.
Sure.
He would end his time at this children's home by committing his first escape, running away at age 7.
Damn.
7.
Okay.
It's like,
wow.
who could punish a little baby? Like, what, he's stealing lollipops? Like, who cares? Who cares?
I mean,
I could mother him.
I could change him.
I could be a good mother. So he was like, this place blows. I'm going to continue my junior thievery on the streets.
Okay.
Which worked out for a
this
little
is
while.
very Oliver Twist.
Very much. And
Yeah.
like, this is the 20s, not like the 1800s. Like, it's so
Sure.
like antiquated. It makes me
Sure.
laugh. So he was, being a little 7-year-old criminal for a little while until he was arrested on his very first Little Tykes petty theft charge, which would see him transferred to the Borstal Institution for Teenage Delinquents, which was a juvenile detention center infamous throughout history for horrible conditions.
Right.
Like Borstal is brought up in like all like old English things as like this is the worst place you could go to.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
no childcare.
Yeah.
No playroom. No. Bad.
Jeez.
Alfred, who had already successfully ran away from his first orphanage, was like, hey, I forgot I could do that. Why am I sitting here? Bye.
Yeah.
So he escaped. He put Juvie in his proverbial rear view window and mirror. Yeah,
I gotta say, I feel like these places were much easier to escape back
completely.
in the day. There was no security cameras.
Yeah.
They were not like these high-walled, like bricked-in
that'll come in later.
facilities where there's like bars on the window. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's not like this big, massive. That's not to say everywhere. Obviously, in like prisons, you know what I mean?
A lot of the
Like,
places he escaped from actually were like pretty heavily.
really?
Yeah.
Because I'm like a lot of these like juvenile when you're talking kids.
Yeah. Oh, the
Homes and
orphanage
stuff, they're
and stuff,
like
I'm sure.
homes.
Yeah.
They're not like.
Borstal was not.
Was not.
Borstal was
Okay.
like this horrible big giant.
I still
creepy
feel with
building.
like the lack of security cameras and sensors and what like modern technology. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
these days, no.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand what
Yeah,
you're saying. But
yeah.
it's like, it is funny that he's like this little baby. Like,
yeah, for sure.
artist.
That might even made it easier because you can get into
the
those like
baby.
vents and shit to
Oh,
just like.
yeah. He's like, I got little fingers. I'll just pick
Yeah.
the lock with my tiny little fingers.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yep, that's it. I fashioned my fingernail into a key and now I can break
Yes.
out.
Fashionable.
That would work.
I love that. And then he became a nail artist.
Something in
and everything was fine.
cartoons. Yeah. It's very Looney Tunes.
Yes. I love that so much. So he was just like, fuck Juvie. I
Yeah.
don't want to be there. And he was just like living and doing crimes on the streets.
Okay.
Eventually, he enlisted in the British Army during the Second World War. I'm guessing to escape some charges, either that or like he got caught with something and they were like, why don't you join the fucking army?
Yeah.
Both of those things were not uncommon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like, just join the army. Stay out of trouble. Alfred may not have joined the army for the most noble of reasons, but he did enjoy learning about one particular thing. Camouflage and the art of hiding yourself away from your
Okay.
enemy. So he's like,
Born and bred rogue for sure.
completely.
Yeah.
He's like, more criminal skills. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Stargate approves. He really took the theme literally by becoming an army deserter. And after a string of safe cracking, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison on the charge of petty theft, though he pled not guilty. He was like,
Okay.
I didn't do that.
Okay.
But he did that. But I don't know why it's petty theft, because to this day, so he was charged with several robberies where he was mostly like going into people's houses and businesses and breaking into their safes and taking their shit.
yeah.
$90,000 equivalent from that has not been recovered.
Okay.
So I'm like, how is that petty theft? That's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it's just because he was stealing from like private citizens versus businesses. Like
Maybe.
if that back then was the distinction.
That's
or-
what I wonder.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. So 12 years, such a bummer, and right in the prime of his life. Well, there was nothing for it. The sentence had come down, and Alfred would just have to sit and serve his time like a proper citizen.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
Psych! This is literally the jailbreak episode. What do you
Yes.
think he fucking did? He broke the jail.
Yeah.
Alfred took 2 years to plan his daring escape from Nottingham prison, which would earn him the nickname Houdini.
Okay.
I wish there was more information about these, but again, no security cameras.
Right,
So we
right.
just have to,
yeah. Also, the reporting is thin
Yeah.
and like,
and biased.
yeah, probably sensational, I'm sure.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
On one dark night in 1953, Alfred would sneak out the back doors, which were obviously locked.
Right.
But he would figure out a way to get through those, and somehow made his way up and over the 20-foot wall, all without being seen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
He's like
so
a
earlier
monkey
you were like,
boy.
there were no high walls. I'm like, yes, there were.
Yeah. He's like a monkey, man.
Yeah, he's a monkey man. He fled to Ireland and worked as like a builder decorator, which is honestly so cute. Imagine being like the criminal Alfred Houdini Hines designed my sitting room. What do you think his design style was?
Rococo. No, I don't know.
Yes, fancy. I don't know either, but like how cute would that be? It's like super pink.
Yeah.
After 248 days on the lam, he was finally apprehended by Scotland Yard and sent back to prison. Now, here is where we could see how truly intelligent Alfred was. You see, during all these imprisonments, Alfred had gained quite an interest in law.
Okay.
Well, like breaking it.
Right.
But also
right.
how to
you got to know the
use-
technicalities, man.
Right. How to use the law to his advantage.
Yeah.
Somehow he was able to levy charges against the officers who arrested him, like from Scotland Yard,
Okay.
citing illegal arrest.
Oh.
He was so compelling that it actually went to trial, even though it was bullshit.
And he was representing himself, I'm sure. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't have an
Oh,
attorney
yeah.
or
Oh,
what.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
During the trial, Alfred asked the two guards if he could visit the loo. They were like, absolutely. So they cheerfully escorted him to the bathroom. But little did they know that Alfred had a little secret up his sleeve, a padlock, which he had smuggled to him during his trial, because this whole time he's in jail.
Sure.
You know, so he had this smuggled to him. He was like, okay, guards, please undo my handcuffs so that I can go potty in this one particular, not at all suspicious bathroom stall. When they freed him, Alfred shoved the two officers into the stall and then slammed the lockpick onto the screw eyes that his criminal accomplices had put into the stall before the trial.
What?
He had so much pull that he was able to get people to
that's
install
funny.
a thing so that he could lock these officers in the bathroom,
Oh, that's funny.
in the stall together.
Oh, I love
There's no
that.
space in there.
You know what? You gotta respect it a
bet they
little
kissed.
bit.
So he locked them in the bathroom stall. Quick as a whip, he slithered out the window and disappeared into the crowds of London's famous Fleet Street, probably giggling the whole time. He was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
here in the potty. And he would have gotten away with it too if he hadn't been recognized and arrested at an airport later that same day.
Oh my gosh.
It said it was like 5 hours later.
Right.
He was remanded to the high security Chelmsford prison, where I'm sure the legal system felt they could breathe a sigh of relief now that the very tricky Alfred Houdini Hines was firmly behind bars. But they wouldn't have long to relax, as Alfred, of course, escaped not even a full year later.
I'm like, would you not just like permanently put him in chains?
What do
like,
you think?
Like padlock to a floor? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like the feet, arm
Yeah.
chains. Like, I don't understand how this keeps happening.
I
Like, there's
don't
definitely ways to
either.
prevent this.
You would think so, and they did like nothing this whole time.
Right.
They never do anything.
Yeah.
He took on the alias, as he's escaped now, of William Howard Bishop,
Okay.
a law-abiding used car salesman, which of course was a cover for him illegally smuggling cars.
Sure.
He would embody the identity for 2 years, and he would have gotten away with it too if he hadn't been stopped in an unregistered car. Back to prison, Alfie.
Oh my gosh.
Now, what did the general public think of this eccentric character?
So wait, hold on. Let me
Yeah.
ask a question.
Yeah.
Did he get arrested under his pseudonym, or did they figure out it was
They figured
him?
out it
Oh,
was
okay,
him.
okay.
They had been
Got it.
kind of like tracking him.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And he made that easier because this whole time that he's on the lam, he's doing interviews. He's like,
God.
this is how I escaped from prison. This is how I
he
use
loves
the law.
it. He's like
Oh,
basking and like
completely.
fooling these people.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
Wow. Okay.
He had become somewhat of an early media sensation, and not without his own influence. Like I said, he gave countless interviews and public appearances where he charmed audiences with his knowledge of the law and general enthusiasm for freedom. He seemed like kind of a Robin Hood type character to me.
Yeah.
He would even give these interviews, like I said, while he was on the run. Like, I'm eluding Scotland Yard, but yeah, I totally have time for a quick sit down. Let's talk about me. He even ended up selling his life story for a whopping $40,000.
Wow.
Which is like, you haven't even lived your whole life.
Yeah.
Like, live another year and get more money.
Yeah. That's a lot back then too.
Right?
Like that's a huge amount.
Right? So it's like, he's just got money.
Wow.
He would continue to appeal all of his arrests. And then he found a technicality. There's like a whole thing where he had a woman helping him who was like his common law wife throughout his life, which I love. So she would help him with like all the legal shit.
Okay.
And they found out that in British law at the time, I'm sure they've changed it, prison escapes were not listed as misdemeanors.
Okay.
So he couldn't be charged with it.
Okay,
it was
they didn't
this,
have
like-
them as like felonies or anything. Like they just were not listed specifically as
Right.
a
Right.
crime, as a criminal offense. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was.
Oh yeah,
like
I'm
this
sure that's definitely
sneaky
changed
little
by
thing.
now.
I'm sure.
It has to have.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But so funny.
Oh, how funny. I'm sure they were like, no one's ever gonna break out of these.
Well, completely. And he was like, haha, actually.
Watch me scale
it's
this wall.
me.
Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
His final appeal before the House of Lords in 1960 was denied, but it said he gave a 3-hour argument.
Wow.
So, like, he was committed. He's
Yeah.
filibustering.
Yeah.
He's stalling.
Yeah.
So he had to serve 6 years in Parkhurst Prison, and he like stayed there, which
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah.
Then in 1964, he actually won a libel suit against a one of his arresting officers.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
That's kind of funny.
But because what happened was the arresting officer had written a bunch of articles being like, this guy is not innocent. Like, this guy is going around doing interviews, being a dick.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
obviously he's not. And he was like, that's libel. You can't prove I did all that. And he won 1,300 pounds.
Wow.
That cop
That's
probably
funny.
was pissed.
Well, he probably won't do that again.
so
hopefully.
pissed. Well, he won't do anything because he's dead. But
Well, now, but I mean, you'll learn your lesson after
you would think
doing
so.
that one time.
You would think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, he became somewhat of a celebrity.
Wow.
And when he served his like 6 years and got out and was like, oh, now I'm just a free guy.
Yeah.
And when he got out, he published a book called Contempt of Court. Dun dun.
Okay. Yes. Very true crimey.
Well, very much so. And
Yes.
in it, he's describing his many jailbreaks, his jailbreaks from 3 high security prisons, his successful libel case, and everybody loves sticking it
Yeah.
to the man. So
Yeah.
he was like super,
now,
super popular.
They had to feel really good because now it's like
Absolutely.
you've served your time, you're free and clear, like you're not
You're
trying to like
good.
run or
Yeah.
whatever. And because of all of this, like you said, you've gained a little celebrity.
Yeah.
Why not capitalize? Like
And capitalized.
you can
he
talk
did.
about all that shit. You've already served your time.
Yeah, and he's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some money.
Yeah.
So people were like calling him like to be speakers at events.
Sure.
So this is just like a cute little anecdote. So he got invited to take part in a debate at what is now the University of Westminster. From the Students' Union. Who
Okay.
I'm sure all these college kids were like, this guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, let's have him.
Look
be
how many
here.
times he broke out of prison.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to break out of the prison. That is. Oh, we already made that joke. Society.
Yes.
Society's prison.
Yeah.
So this was in 1967. So this college had this thing called Rag Week, which
Okay.
seems to be kind of like a hazing thing.
Sure.
So this goofy college thing. So he did the debate, and then he goes to a nearby pub and is drinking. 6 students kidnapped him, and they like tied him up, and it said frog marched him throughout the streets, being like, "We kidnapped Houdini Hines." Like, it was all kind of like a goofy, silly thing. I don't think he
Yeah.
was like pissed or anything.
Yeah.
But they, as he's being like tied up because they handcuffed him, he ended up unlocking his chains and handcuffing them.
Oh my God. Like a true Houdini.
Houdini
Like a true
Hines.
Houdini.
Houdini Hines.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. Later he became a member of Mensa.
Mensa's bullshit.
Yeah, well, I think so too. But like,
I mean, impressive, I guess, but like Mensa's bullshit.
well, he was also a consultant for the UK justice system because
Oh,
he knew so
interesting.
much about breaking the law.
Sure.
Which, like,
Those
okay.
are the people you want to keep close. Be like,
That's
please don't
true.
do that to us again. Help us instead.
Just like, what's her name in Criminal Minds? She got hired because she was like hacking them, and they were like, "Why don't you hack for us?"
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he became this very notable public speaker in England. He was this big public figure. When I was doing research for this, there's a lot of, like, he was really, like, the public really, like, venerated him. They really, really liked him.
Interesting.
Because, I mean, he was sticking it to the man.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And he would continue making public appearances, do it, but pretty much staying on the right side of the law. He was never arrested again after that. I mean, why would he? What does he need to steal now? He's probably got tons of money.
True.
You know?
True.
And keeping his nose clean, he finally died on January 5th, 1991. But he leaves behind a very sneaky and sexy legacy.
Yeah, how interesting. To have done that so many times so young.
I know.
Is pretty crazy.
He's like, I'm dipping.
Wow. Love it.
Do not ever try to contain me. I will leave.
Love it. Well, I will say your guy is definitely way more likable than mine.
Did you pick an asshole?
He's kind of an asshole.
Love
So I'm going to talk about a guy named William Scott Day.
Okay.
He was born on October 21st, 1951, to a military family that was stationed in Japan at the time.
Japan.
Yeah, I know. Not on purpose. Not on purpose. He is talked about as having a high intelligence from a young age.
Okay.
And they talk about him spending his days reading these like classic art authors a la Walt Whitman, Oscar Wilde, like that kind of stuff.
Gay authors.
Yes.
I love them.
Day's father passed away during his teenage years. So Day moved to Michigan and decided to enlist in the Marine Corps following his father's footsteps. After enlisting, Day was sent to be stationed in Flat Rock in southeastern Michigan. It's like kind of by Detroit. But it didn't seem like it was the place he wanted to be because this is his first escape, technically. But he deserted.
Oh.
He deserted his post to commit what would be the first in a long series of crimes. Holy shit. During his desertion period, Day was arrested for attempted rape and attempted kidnapping of a Michigan woman. At the time, he was 17. For this, he received 7 years in prison and was sent to the Ionia Reformatory, which is now called the Richard A. Hanlon Correctional Facility.
Okay.
Where he also escaped from prison for the first time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it sounds like they caught him like pretty shortly after.
Yeah.
And sent him back because he served the remainder of his time. He was officially paroled in 1974.
Wow.
Now, like I had mentioned, this was the first in a very long series of like just doing crimes all the time.
He did not learn his lesson, huh?
No. So in 1976, Day was arrested on a drug charge after being found with heroin.
Ooh.
The Burlington Free Press reported Day at one time had like a $300 a day heroin habit.
Oh my God.
This is a lot of fucking heroin.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Guys, don't do heroin.
Please don't. It's terrible.
Don't do that.
It's bad for you. In 1977, he was picked up for theft and sent to a prison farm in Jackson, Michigan, where he once again escaped. He was caught and then remained there for another year before being paroled in 1978, which I always think when you're escaping from a prison farm, it's just like working the farm and then like running off into the field.
Yeah.
And
What's that movie? Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, Brother, Where Art
Holes
Thou?
too.
Also, Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
I love Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? That is one of
Me
my favorite
too.
movies. But yes, also
love
like
Holes.
that. I also love Holes. Yep. Same
got to
concept,
go
but for
get
kids. It's like
those
prison for kids. Yeah. Am I wrong? Where's the lie? Where's
not
the
wrong
lie?
at all. You're not wrong.
They
at
were
all.
in orange jumpsuits.
Yep.
And forced to do
That's
hard
real.
labor.
That happens.
Yep. So Day was not out of prison for long after his little 1977 to 78 stint, because in 1979 he was once again picked up and sent to prison for kidnapping, receiving 15 years.
Wow.
He only served 2 of those and was paroled again in 1981. In 1982, Day was once again arrested for writing bad checks and was sent to a prison camp in Cairo, Michigan, where he once again escaped.
Jeez.
This time, during his escape, Day kidnapped an 80-year-old woman whom he robbed and left tied to a tree.
Aw.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Or Ethel.
Yeah. I was
Yes. Yeah. Once caught, Day received an additional 7 years added onto his sentence and was sent off to the Michigan State Prison.
Like, I feel about this guy the way that we felt about the last guy. Like, just keep him in jail.
Literally.
Like,
And also stop sending him to prison farms because, like,
yeah, I feel like those are easier to escape
clearly, yeah, I think you have more, not that they're unsupervised, but like,
gonna
I just
steal
think
a
there's
horse
more
and ride off
opportunity.
into the night.
Yeah, you're not like, now I don't know if the prison farm, like the prison is on the same property as a farm or if they're being, I feel like it would be
Usually not. It's
transported,
transferred,
right?
yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, stop doing that.
Agree.
However, once he returned to prison, Day began suffering from depression and was temporarily sent to the Center for Forensic Psychiatry in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Now, an article in the Detroit Free Press said, quote, described by workers and officials at the center as pleasant and outgoing. He played chess with Fortunato and other employees, helped break up a number of assaults by patients on workers.
Oh.
He was treated almost like a trustee, said a worker who asked not to be named. There didn't really seem to be anything wrong with him. He was one of the more coherent residents. He had a real good line of bullshit, end quote.
See,
He's like normal guy.
I hate cases like it's like Ed Kemper, where it's
Yes.
like, he's just this super friendly
Yeah.
giant guy.
Yeah.
We're just gonna tell him all our secrets. I'm like, stop.
He makes my
that.
job so much easier. He's helping me out, in fact.
Why would they do
Like,
that?
Yeah.
Because they're doing crimes. Stop it.
Yeah. The article goes on to say that Day would give people at the facility the impression that he was some kind of, quote, electronics wizard who was adept at breaking into banks. End quote.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
I thought this was interesting.
Oh.
Okay. So if you were listening closely, you
was.
heard me mention somebody by the name of Fortunato.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to this guy for a second.
Do it.
So Thomas Frederick Fortunato was a 36-year-old security worker who had been at the center for 14 years.
Okay.
The Detroit Free Press described him as, quote, a friendly looking man who wears wire-rimmed glasses, works crossword puzzles with the neighbors' kids, and is an officer in his bowling league.
Oh, what a
End quote.
cutie.
Just like a, Midwest guy.
Yeah, very friendly.
Very friendly, good at his job,
Yeah.
really liked what he was doing. Fortunato was working the C-43 ward, which was the convict ward and generally housed the more violent residents. And so this was like an area that most people didn't want to be in.
Right.
But he actually didn't mind it. He kind of liked
Yeah.
working. And it was crazy hours, but like... Also, if you think about it, now you're talking about a ward with entirely violent criminals, and you get someone like Day in there who is like normal compared to all of that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it's definitely perspective.
Yeah. Completely.
I don't know if you put him in with general population if he would have been as normal. You know what I mean? Like as
Yeah.
like so calm or whatever.
That's
or as
true.
unusual in that
Yeah, he wouldn't have
ward.
stood out so much.
Right. So after Day is transferred to the center in Ypsi, he and Fortunato sort of form this friendship. They're playing chess together. They're hanging out.
Fortunato, no.
It's not even like working. It's just like hanging out with a buddy.
That's dangerous. You're working in a bad place.
Now he had been transferred there from the prison specifically for his depression.
Yeah.
So this was a temporary placement until Day had like completed his treatment.
Had cheered up.
had just gotten over it.
Yeah, get over it.
And he knew that his time was coming to an end. So approximately 2 weeks before he was set to be transferred back to prison, Day began asking Fortunato if he might possibly, like, if it's not too much trouble, can you help me escape?
Oh my God.
And Fortunato initially thought this was a joke. Like, haha, good joke, buddy.
Yeah, I'll totally break you
You
out
know
of
I
here.
can't do that.
Silly.
And it's unclear, like, why Fortunato eventually decided to help him. They talk about this over and over again. They're like, we still do not understand, like, what the motive was for him.
He has so much to lose.
Yeah, he literally, like, he has a wife and kids and a good job.
Maybe
and is
they
like,
were in love.
I don't think so. I know you want that to happen with everybody.
I do.
But like,
Well, no,
I don't
I'm just
think that's
like
it.
legitimately like, why?
No, I don't
That's
know.
So weird.
I don't know. So, but for some reason, also because Day is very manipulative,
Very
and
charismatic.
charismatic.
That's true.
Yeah, he somehow managed to convince him to help him
Wow.
break out. So the two began hatching a plan to bust out Day, one that would be put into action 24 hours before Day was scheduled to be moved back to prison.
Whoa.
Yeah. So per his instructions, Fortunato went to Toledo, Ohio, where he rented a car and left it for safekeeping in the parking lot of a General Motors factory in Toledo, and then went back to Ypsilanti. He then set about trying to gather a bunch of money to like be for this long trip they're going on. You need a ton of money. But he was only able to pull $5,000 out of his own bank account. Like, that's all he could get his hands on.
Okay.
Was about $5,000, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
When you're trying to
Restart your life.
escape the law.
Yeah.
On the day of the escape, Day was assigned to laundry duty, which worked perfectly for them. Because once he was on duty, like during his laundry duty, he just gets into the laundry cart.
Of course.
And then Fortunato comes along and pushes it outside.
Let me take away this basket.
And then he like pushes. This is how I picture it happening in my head from all the descriptions I've read.
Yeah.
He pushes the cart outside and is like, "Oh shoot, I forgot. I have this tour scheduled with a new employee. I need to show them around the facility."
Course.
Leaves the cart outside, goes back in being like, "Oh yeah, I have to go do this tour." Works his shift. I don't know if he worked his full shift, but he was also working like overnights too.
Oh, okay.
So when they're leaving, this would have been like the early hours of the morning, like 2, 3, 4 o'clock, sometime in there.
Okay.
Okay, so he pushes him outside. He finishes up whatever he's doing in the building. He leaves the building. The two men get into Fortunato's truck. They drive off to the GM plant in Toledo, switch out the cars. He leaves his truck at the General Motors plant, gets into this car that he had rented, and then they head towards Louisville, Kentucky.
Wow.
There, they rented a motel room and blew $1,000 going out and partying.
Get the fuck out of
night.
here.
They were just like, let's live it the fuck up.
Okay, now listen, I know you were saying I was being silly, but I thought it was like, oh, you're going to help me get out of prison and then I'm going to leave by myself. They're leaving together?
Yeah, no.
They're gay.
That's why they had gotten $5,000. They are not. They are
jerking each other
They
off.
definitely were not.
Incorrect.
They were not.
They're kissing on the mouth.
No, they're not.
Yeah. Why would
they're
he
not.
go with him? That's
Dude,
dumb.
I don't fucking know. Maybe he thought it was the excitement, the thrill
Accept
of
my
leaving.
hypothesis.
I absolutely do not. Everybody in the world is not gay, Rachel.
But it's kind of weird that they left together.
That doesn't mean they're gay.
I think it does. I think
Oh
that's
my
a motivator.
God. Whatever. Disregard this crazy
You're being
woman over
homophobic
here.
right now.
No, I'm definitely not. You know I love the gays. I'm just saying not everyone is gay.
No, I know, but it's just weird. It's super weird.
It is unusual. So, yeah. So they go out partying. They get to Nashville. They're like, let's fucking party. The
That is a
next
party
day,
place.
Day's the first one to wake up. And then Fortunato wakes up not long after. And he decides he's going to hop in. He's like, I'm going to take a shower before we head out on the road again. This was a mistake because he gets in the shower and Day takes this opportunity. He takes a car. He takes most of the money. He left Fortunato with like $50.
Dick.
And leaves Fortunato behind.
Oh my God.
Fucks off with the car.
Aw.
But as I'm sure you remember, like these two guys had talked about their plan, and I didn't get any indication that like Day would have lied to him necessarily about the ideas of where they might go. So once he realized that Day had left, Fortunato hopped on a bus to Mobile, Alabama, and tried to chase after him. Go after him on this bus. When he got to Mobile, he hitchhiked down to Tampa.
Oh my God.
But then he eventually ran out of money and he spent a few days like surfing homeless shelters because he didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And I think this was like the moment that he realized I done fucked up.
Oh.
Because he's now been left behind. He's out of money. He's living out of homeless shelters.
Yeah.
Again, he came from a life where he was married. They had kids. They had a comfortable life. He had this really good job. And he's like, I fucked up.
Crazy.
So,
Idiot.
And also, by now, the authorities knew that Day was gone. They were operating on the assumption they knew that Day was gone and that Fortunato was missing.
Did they think he like kidnapped him?
Yes, they're operating on the assumption that Fortunato was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Also because, again, like everyone's like, why the fuck would he do this? He's not that kind of guy. So they assume he's kidnapped.
Yeah.
But it's, like I said, like he has to be having regrets about doing this whole thing.
Absolutely.
So he calls his wife a couple of times. They have a couple phone conversations. He then turns himself into the FBI in Tampa.
Wow.
And waives his right to an attorney, confesses to everything. He does get charged. I forget what he gets charged with, but when he goes to court, he pleads no contest.
Okay.
Like he was like,
I did that.
Yeah, I fucking did it. I did. I done did the thing.
Wow.
Yes. So now the FBI is like, oh, he had help with this. And is searching for Day, which is a whole thing.
Wow.
He's off on his own. After he left the motel, Day ditched the car that they had rented in Louisville and got a bus ticket to Nashville, Tennessee, where he ran into 74-year-old Mary Catherine Strobel.
Oh, no.
She had been out to deliver a sack of potatoes to a rescue mission as part of her volunteer work routine. Oh. Yeah, she was like one of these like very lauded for her, what do I want to say, philanthropy, her volunteer work, like big deal in the community.
Poor Mary Catherine.
This is from the Tennessean. Quote, Day told authorities that he approached Strobel in the parking lot of Sears and Roebuck on Lafayette Street, showed her a pocket knife, and said he would rob her. He got behind the wheel of her car, drove about a block and a half away, and demanded the $30 Strobel had in her purse. He said he then drove around Nashville for several hours with Strobel sitting in the back seat, end quote. Now, during this, like, driving around, he gets stopped by police for speeding.
What?
Yeah. And he did get 2 citations because he was speeding and he did not have proof of license. But he tells the officer, this is my mother. She's having a medical emergency. Like, I'm trying to get to help.
Oh my God.
So he's like, okay, well, I'll just write you these 2 citations and you can go on your way.
Give him what is that when they like, oh my God, I can't think of the word. Like when the police go with you to the hospital.
Oh, like an escort?
Yes.
Yeah. You would think
Wouldn't
so.
you think? Or
you
like,
would think
oh my
so.
God, ma'am, can I call you an ambulance? They're allowed to speed.
Yeah.
You, sir, are
Yeah.
not. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he goes off. Eventually, Day tells Strobel that he's going to tie her up and he's going to put her in the trunk. This sends her into a panic. Aww. She starts screaming, panicking. This causes Day to panic. He's like, oh my God.
I thought you'd be cool with this.
Yeah, I thought we'd be chill. The vibes were right.
I'm having a good time. Are you not having a good time?
He takes out his pocket knife, stabs her twice before putting her in the trunk.
Oh.
He then went to a Jim Dandy market where he robbed them of $750 before leaving the car in Nashville and getting on a bus and getting out of Dodge.
And she's in the trunk? Mm-hmm. Oh, poor Mary Catherine. From
there, Day next surfaced in San Antonio, Texas, where he ran into 76-year-old retired mechanic Roberto Arzapalo Alcozer. Mm-hmm. He had been on his way to visit his daughters in California. It sounds like they were on the same bus route. Okay. Like they're both traveling across country. Uh-huh. He was on his way to visit his daughters in California for Christmas. This is like right at the end of December. They sort of strike up this friendship. I don't know about you, but I definitely am cursed with this when I'm in like airports and stuff. Like people will start talking. We'll just start chatting. I make friends on the plane. I'm like talking to this
approachable Midwestern air.
I hate it. But it is my curse and my burden.
Same.
So
I agree.
I'll take one for the team, I guess.
Yep.
So it sounds like it's that kind of thing though. They like met on the bus. They kind of strike up. It's a long trip.
Yeah. Nothing else to do. He did all his crosswords.
Right. At one of the stops, they had like gone to party at a bar.
Okay.
Over like where they were stopped overnight and stuff. But while they're on their way to Tucson, Arizona, Day asks about a pouch that Arzapalo Alcozer has like sewn into his jacket. Oh. And he says, oh, this is like where I keep my money. I've got like $2,000 in here. It's like a safety pocket.
Don't tell people that.
Well, he's not a stranger anymore. They're friends. They're totally friends.
Oh my God.
So once they arrived in Tucson, Day lures him to this sort of remote part of the bus station where he was beat up. They talk about him being slammed into like the electric box that was back there.
Ouch.
He's robbed of basically everything except for $40 and his passport.
Oh.
Arza Paulo Alcozer was found and taken to the hospital where unfortunately he died from his injuries. And Day was once again like on the road.
Out in the wind.
Out in the wind. So from Tucson, Day goes to San Diego, where he spends Christmas with a group of Taiwanese college students that he treated to a holiday dinner and a visit to the zoo.
Oh, okay.
Again, making friends wherever he goes. But by the new year, he found himself back in Marianna, Florida, ready to pick up his crime spree. Took a break for the holidays.
It's really funny.
Celebrates the new year. Meet some
Going to the
college
zoo.
students. Let me treat you to zoo and dinner.
Why? So weird.
Dude, I don't even know.
This guy's
I don't
crazy.
even know. So he goes to Marianna, Florida. On January 2nd, Day went into a pawn shop where he murdered 55-year-old Evan Johnson, who had been working at the store. He then robbed everything he could and left. And as he's leaving, he goes to turn the sign on the door from open to closed as he's leaving, which sort of catches the eye of a nearby police officer because it was like the middle of the day.
Right.
And so he's like, why are they, that's kind of weird. Like, why are
Yeah.
they closing right now? So the officer stops him. He asks him what he's doing, like what's going on. Day says that he was the clerk's cousin and the cousin had gone out to lunch, forgot to close the store up. So he stopped to temporarily close
doing
the
him a
store. Yeah. While
Right.
he's out for lunch. This was like kind of sketchy to the police officer, but he did not have any like probable cause for arrest. Like there was nothing causing alarm. He was like,
Right.
okay, whatever you say. So he had to let him go.
Wow.
He couldn't hold him. He couldn't arrest him for anything.
That sucks.
Yeah. And obviously he didn't know there was somebody
Right.
murdered on the inside, but like,
Right. Bummer.
yeah, what do you do? Day then hopped on another bus and headed to New Orleans, but not before stopping off in Pensacola to catch the 1987 Fiesta Bowl game.
Stop
It's a
it.
big college football bowl game.
So he's just going to sports.
I mean, what else does he have to do? Where does he got to be?
What the fuck?
Where's he trying to go?
This guy's a nut.
He's supposed to be in prison. Now he's got all the time in the world. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah. Let's not forget, he's currently a fugitive from prison.
Yeah. And he's just like, la, la, la. I'll take a hot dog,
football
please.
game. Yeah. By January 6th, Day was in Fort Stockton, Texas, where he met Billy Taylor, who he beat and stabbed, leaving her body on the side of the road. Day made it to New Orleans the next day, where he met 27-year-old Andrew McClelland at a lounge in the French Quarter. Now, being the nice guy that he is,
Of course.
he's offered to share his hotel room with his new friend. McClelland was in town for this job interview, so he was like, all right, cool, like, saves me a hotel room. The following morning, a housekeeper discovered McClelland's body in the hotel room, appearing to have been stabbed to death. Having committed another murder, Day stole McClelland's car and went back to Mobile, Alabama, where he ditched the car behind a bus station. A few days later, Day found himself at the trailer home of 53-year-old Stanley Robertson. Day bludgeoned and stabbed Robertson to death and slashed his throat before stealing his car. He didn't make it very far before he gets noticed by a police officer. Again, this is from the Detroit Free Press. Quote, the officer said Day was traveling 90 miles per hour when he was spotted west of Van Horn, and the truck he was driving turned out to be owned by a man from Valentine who had been slain, end quote.
Oh, well, that's suspicious.
Yeah, so of course, he sees this guy speeding. He stops him. He starts asking some question. Day claimed to be another man named Tom Willens, who he said he had dropped his Uncle Stanley, the guy whose car this is, Stanley Robertson. He dropped his Uncle Stanley off at a local bar and was borrowing the truck to go look for work in El Paso.
Oh, yeah, normal.
Normal stuff. So this is all happening, right? He's like questioning him about the car and why he's driving, whatever. He overhears on the radio from dispatch that a local liquor store had just been robbed like minutes before. And 67-year-old Dorothy Alexander, who had been working at the liquor store at the time, had been pistol whipped in the incident. So she got attacked. And since like this just happened, they at the time did not know that Stanley Robertson was dead or that like made the connection between like him being dead and this being his car.
Yeah.
But this robbery had just happened. This guy's flying past at 90 miles per hour.
It's suspicious.
Yeah, that was enough for him to get arrested and held. He asked Day to step out of the car, and when he did, it was very clear that there was like blood all over his clothes.
Oh, well,
they're like, okay, that's...
He's like, what?
That's even more unusual. What? Ketchup. I was eating a hamburger.
Yeah,
like
messy.
Yeah. So he was immediately arrested.
Good.
Taken to the jail to be questioned. And of course, when they called in the truck, the fact that it comes back to this recently murdered Robertson, obviously they're like, okay, we made the right call. Finally.
Yeah,
You know?
for once.
When it came time for Day to be questioned, he immediately waived his right to an attorney, confessed to everything. It's like, absolutely, I did all this. They were, at the time that he was arrested, again, there's like these simultaneous investigations happening. So at the time that he was arrested, they were mainly concerned about this holdup and him pistol whipping this woman.
Yeah.
So that's what he was being questioned about. But, and honestly, because of the spread of murders, they probably didn't even know at that time all these other people
I'm
that
sure
he
they
had
had
been in
no
contact
clue.
with. Yeah.
Crazy.
But Day confessed to not only the holdup, but informed authorities that he had actually escaped from the Ipsy mental facility in Michigan.
Oh.
By the way, I'm an escaped prisoner.
He's like, is that illegal?
And then tells them that he had killed 8 people while he was on the run. Oh, by the way.
Jeez. Just so you know.
Just so you know.
Is this relevant?
Yeah. Obviously, police immediately call all of these agencies where he's claiming to have murdered all of these people. They wanted to conclusively link him to some of them. With the evidence they had, they could link him to the 6 that we talk about. So he claimed 8. We talked about the 6 that he was actually linked to for sure.
Yeah.
While all of these indictments are coming down, because now we're talking about multi-state agencies and like this would not have been a federal crime because he never transported a person across borders.
Right.
He was committing a murder in one state and then going to another state and committing a murder and going to another. So they would be prosecuted by state.
He's a Rolling Stone.
So all of these the states are like working on getting these indictments put together. But during this, he gives an interview from jail to the Nashville Banner where, again, he's like, yeah, I fully did everything. Like, he goes out in the paper and is like absolutely admitted to everything, but said that he was high and drunk during the slayings.
So?
Which to me is very much trying to set up a defense for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously,
Blame it on the
he had a drug and alcohol problem.
Right.
That's not like he had a heroin problem.
But plenty of
for
people
sure.
with drug and alcohol problems don't murder 8 people.
Yeah. And it's like to come out with that right away, to intentionally give an interview to say that right away.
Oh, completely.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, he's
You know
setting
what
it
you're
up.
doing.
For sure.
Yes. So there was a bit of like legal maneuvering done by Day's eventual attorney. He didn't have one during his confessions, but he got assigned one, I believe.
Okay.
Tennessee was the first to issue an indictment, but Day had been picked up in Texas. So he was sitting in Texas waiting for charges in Texas. And I'm sure we all know how Texas feels about the death penalty.
Yeah.
Like they are very, very pro death penalty down there. Very pro death penalty down there. So Day's attorney was like, well, we will not fight the extradition to Tennessee because Tennessee was likely to, and I think at the time had indicated that they were not seeking the death penalty, that they would seek a life imprisonment term. So they were like, we will not fight this extradition to Tennessee because it was also likely that if he goes to Tennessee, he gets convicted, he gets this life prison, he might not even be like brought up in charges in the other states.
I see.
Type
Yeah,
of
that
thing,
makes
you know
sense.
what I mean? It saves
well,
a lot.
he's already in prison.
Right. It saves a lot of time.
For
I mean,
sure. It makes sense.
It's one of these things that I always feel conflicted on because the victims' families, I'm sure, would like prosecution, but at the same time, like just logistically, it saves time and money in the courts. he's going to be in prison anyway. I'm sure for closure's sake, it would be good to have that. But like,
I wish there was a step between like an actual full trial and like investigations they could do. Like if they could be like, okay, we officially, unofficially like attribute all of these things to him.
yeah, and they pretty much did. But like, you can't say that about somebody if you're not convicted in court. You know what I
totally
mean?
understand.
Like,
I just wish there was like
I know, I agree with you. Like a different
that is
designation
complicated.
almost.
Completely.
Yeah. But you'd be opening yourself up to so many libel and
I'm
defamation
sure.
cases. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I don't, which is why I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah. So anyway.
Wow.
So he gets extradited to Tennessee. When they got there, they tried to get a change of venue out of Nashville because by this time, like the case had become very highly publicized.
Oh, totally.
Especially when you're talking about somebody being murdered in Nashville, like, and having to go back there and stand trial. Like, yeah, people knew about it. But the judge denied their request.
Okay.
Although there were a number of potential jurors who knew about the issue is you have jurors who know about the other murders.
Right.
And not just the one in Nashville.
Yeah.
It's almost not even an issue
really
of knowing about that one.
Right.
But there were a number of people who said, oh, yeah, we know about these other murders and his potential involvement.
Yeah.
That were dismissed. So they did get excused from jury duty, but they eventually put together a jury. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Day was convicted on all counts. However, the jury could not come to a unanimous decision on sentencing. And so Day was automatically given 3 life terms. He died. He did.
Oh.
He died from natural causes at the West Tennessee State Penitentiary at the age of 54 in February 2006. So he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But he like broke out of prison multiple times and then did a bunch of crime. Our guys are pretty similar, except mine's way more violent. But
what a douche.
Yeah.
Dude, fuck that guy.
He's like the evil version of yours.
Yeah, he's like his Wario.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if you need something to listen to while you break out of prison, check out this podcast.
Hello, this is Margot D of the Not Fade Away podcast. This is the show that talks about folks from the music world who are no longer with us. We're talking about singers, musicians, songwriters, composers. If they made a mark on the world of music, we will talk about them. Past and future episodes include Jim Morrison, Aaliyah, John Belushi, Kurt Cobain, Tupac, and Jerry Garcia. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts under the name Not Fade Away Podcast, and follow us on all of our social media channels as well under Not Fade Away Podcast. And if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, send an email to notfadeawaypodcast@gmail.com. Hope you check us out. Thanks so much.
Well, Rachel, that has been our episode.
It sure has.
I'm so ready for a nap. I'm so tired.
I've been yawning this whole time.
I know. I know it's not because you think I'm boring.
No,
it's just
no.
we're tired bitches.
We are tired. I'm so tired.
Yeah. If you liked this episode, you can find more just like this at badtastepodcast.com. Do you have anything you want to say before we
I'm going to
close
get a
out the show?
sandwich.
You're so excited. We always, before we start recording the second episode for the day, we're like plotting our lunches.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll get Jimmy
Ooh,
John's.
I'll do this.
I might actually have a free sandwich at Jimmy John's. I'm going to have to double check.
Oh, that sounds good. I love James Jonathan.
James Jonathan's.
Love it.
On that note, our sound and editing is by Tiff Fullman. Our music is by Jason Zakshevsky, the Enigma. Woo! We will be back with our very special 200th episode in 2 weeks. So excited for that.
Oh my God,
I'm so excited for that. I have a very
much.
fun thing planned. So join us in 2 weeks for that.
You guys are going to love it.
But we will see you then. Goodbye. Bye.
Their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.
Live from the recording studio.
It's
That
not
was
a ghost.
spooky
It's not a
stuff. I didn't
ghost.
say it was a ghost.
I knew you were going to.
What? I didn't.
You literally just said spooky.
It was a spooky noise.
It's a code word. Dog whistle.
Oh,
Spooky is a dog whistle.
God, I am being persecuted.
No way. No
Oh my
way.
God, what was that?
I don't know.